needed to shine this year. One slip, and her dreams of recognition could slip away like steam through a pot. Need help? Nori stood behind the counter of her restaurant, the familiar scent of simmering broth swirling around her. Steam billowed from the pot, wrapping her in a warm embrace as she stirred, her brows tightly knit. The local ramen competition was mere hours away, and she had a vision for her dish, a delicate balance of flavors that would surely knock the judges off their feet. But Akira's confident smirk from across town haunted her thoughts. Winning wasn't just about the trophy. It was about recognition, respect. Hey, Nori, are you ready for tonight? Mia, her part-time server, popped her head in from the dining area, excitement painted across her face. Yeah, almost. Just working on the final touches, Nori replied, not looking up. Her hands moved quickly, a splash of soy sauce here, a dash of sesame oil there. Mia stepped further into the kitchen, fiddling with a stack of takeaway containers. I heard Akira is planning something big. He's been bragging about a secret ingredient. Nori scoffed, shaking her head. Let him have his theatrics. It's all about the taste. The judges will appreciate real flavor over gimmicks. A low rumble passed through the restaurant, rattling utensils in their holders. Nori frowned, her hand pausing in mid-stir. What was that? Mia's eyes darted to the ceiling. Maybe just a truck on the road. Before Nori could respond, the kitchen trembled violently. The floor shook like an earthquake, causing her to grip the counter. Then, a swirling portal materialized in the center of the kitchen, the light spilling bright and strange, revealing entrapped figures within the vortex. In an instant, a horde of yurei, restless spirits clad in flowing garments, burst into the restaurant, their piercing gazes fixed on Nori's dishes, eager wails echoing in their wake. What the… Nori? Mia screamed, stumbling backward and bumping against the prep table. Nori drew in a sharp breath. Get the customers out. Mia hesitated, eyes wide with fear. What do we do about them? I don't know. Nori's focus flickered to the yurei's ethereal forms, gliding toward her pots like moths to a flame. They can't have my ramen. But what if they like it? One yurei stretched a ghostly hand toward the pot of broth, the heat from the stove distorting its apparition. Nori lunged forward, shielding her work. I won't let you ruin this. Akira swung through the door, a flamboyant presence, his eyes lighting up at the chaos. Is this your secret ingredient, Nori? Spirits? Oh, darling, how tragic. Shut up, Akira. Nori spat, her tone edged with disbelief. Help us instead of mocking. Do you think I'd contaminate my culinary prowess? He grinned, leaning against the doorframe as the yurei swirled around him, their moans rising to a chaotic crescendo. Amidst the fray, Nori grasped a ladle, brandishing it like a sword. Get out of my kitchen! Mia stumbled over discarded takeout menus, panic squeezing her words. Nori, think. If they're hungry, can't you just feed them? Feed them? They're spirits. Akira stepped forward, moving with deliberate slowness as he surveyed the chaos. Perhaps they just want a taste. A concession to the culinary gods. You're impossible, Nori retorted, struggling against the swarm. As the kitchen erupted into chaos, utensils clattered, resentment simmered, and the portal glimmered ominously, reflecting desires that intertwined with the unquenchable hunger of the spirits. Each breath crackled with unsaid words, sliding away as the yurei tugged at Nori's plate, the competition morphing into a struggle against ethereal appetites, the taste of victory growing ever elusive. Nori struggled to catch her breath, the sounds of the spirit horde fading like echoes in a cavern. In the aftermath, the kitchen was a wreck, dishes scattered, half-prepared ingredients strewn across the floor. She glanced at Mia, who was nearly hyperventilating, clinging to the edge of the counter. Where's Takumi? Nori muttered, wiping the sweat off her brow as she pushed a stray noodle out of the way. Just then, the door burst open, and in rushed Takumi, eyes wide and filled with determination. I heard the commotion. What the hell happened? There was a portal, and a whole bunch of Yurei. Nori cut herself off, shaking her head to focus. We need a plan before they come back. Takumi knelt down, picking up a pair of chopsticks, inspecting them like they held the secret to a stable existence. What's the plan? Do we feed them? If they're truly hungry. Who needs to eat if they're already dead? Akira's taunting voice sliced through the air like a knife through broth. He leaned casually against the doorframe, arms crossed, the faintest smirk curling his lips. I see your fledgling operation is going as planned. Quite the culinary disaster here, Nori. Nori's temper flared. This is all your fault. You probably summoned them with your ego. Akira raised an eyebrow. I'm just offering you a glimmer of perspective. You can't win a competition with soggy noodles and ghostly interlopers. Just help us stop this mess. Takumi snapped, frustration etched across his face. Akira merely laughed, stepping further into the chaos as if he belonged amidst the wreckage. You really want my help? Or are you hoping to gasp out another futile strategy? Annoyed, Nori turned her back to him, focusing on Takumi. We need to think bigger. What if we can draw them away from the food? Takumi nodded, and they exchanged quick glances, both edging near to an idea, yet ensnared by Akira's presence, and the remnants of panic still swirling in the kitchen. Suddenly, the walls of Nori's noodles trembled once again, this time more violently as the floorboards shook. A guttural roar rippled through the air, drowning out their thoughts, stealing their breath. Are you kidding me? Takumi gaped, looking toward the kitchen entrance. As the portal expanded once again, a monstrous yokai, a hulking figure with elongated limbs and glowing eyes, spilled into the restaurant, blocking their only exit. Its massive frame loomed ominously, drawing in the shadows like a storm cloud. Get back! Nori shouted, instinct pushing her forward, but the sheer size of the creature swallowed the room's light, a maw of insatiable hunger. Akira stepped back, feigning unworried composure. Looks like you've got a bigger problem now. Good luck with that. Don't just stand there. Takumi yelled, frantically gesturing toward the back door. We need to escape. Nori's heart raced, her mind racing even faster. We need to distract it somehow. Or get out while we still can. Takumi darted toward the back, pulling Nori with him. No, we can't leave Mia. The yokai turned its head, its attention shifting, searching for movement. Over here! Akira shouted, drawing the creature's gaze with a wild flourish of his hands, the chaos created by his arrogance almost mesmerizing. Feast on my glorious spirit. Are you insane? Nori hissed, torn between the desire to confront Akira and the urgent need to get free. Takumi jerked her away as they stumbled toward the kitchen's rear. We have to go now. Behind them, the claws of the yokai raked the air, narrowly missing Akira as he darted back, a fleeting smile on his face despite the danger looming over them. As Akira fell back into the shadows, the doorway sealed off with a distant echo. Squeezing them into a corner, Nori felt a new tension coiling within her. The chaos had escalated, drawing them deep into an unfolding struggle against spirits, rivals, and monstrous desires, with no clear path to victory in sight. Nori approached the old wooden house at the end of the winding path, a place steeped in nostalgia. Obakin's garden overflowed with herbs, each vibrant leaf whispering secrets of the past. Sunlight trickled through the leaves, painting patterns on the ground as she pushed through the gate, heart racing with a mixture of hope and urgency. Obakin, Nori called, stepping into the cool interior, the familiar scent of dashi broth enveloping her. Her grandmother emerged from the kitchen, a speckled apron tied around her waist. Ah, Nori, my dear. What brings you here in such a hurry? Nori took a breath, glancing around the cozy room, lined with jars of preserved vegetables and hand-painted ceramics. I need your help. There are yokai invading the restaurant. I don't know how to handle them. Obakin's expression turned serious, her hands resting on a wooden spoon. Yokai are sensitive to energy. You must confront them with balance. Offer them something they desire. Like what? Nori hesitated, fingers tapping nervously against the counter. The essence of connection. A special ramen. She smiled faintly, as if reliving a memory. We can create a dish infused with the flavors of friendship. Gather the ingredients. I need noodles, miso, and fresh vegetables from the market and a pinch of salt from the sea. But do it quickly, Nori. There's unrest. I can feel it. Nori nodded, resolve hardening in her chest. I'll get it done. Outside, the marketplace buzzed with energy. Stalls overflowed with bright produce, laughter mingling with the calls of vendors. Nori maneuvered through the crowd, her mind set on her list, when suddenly a deep rumble shook the ground beneath her feet. What? She stammered as people around her gasped, expressions twisting from joy to alarm. Before she could fully comprehend, an explosion erupted from a neighboring stall, a brilliant flash igniting the air. Vendors scrambled as the marketplace descended into chaos. A phalanx of yokai poured from the ruins, their ghostly forms howling, drawn to the cacophony. Run! Nori shouted, instinctively pushing through the crowd. She had to get back to Obakin. As she dashed toward the exit, the ground quaked again, debris scattering in a swirl of panic. A figure collided with her. It was Takumi, his eyes wide in disbelief. You two? What's happening? The yokai, they're out of control. Nori exclaimed, her breath quickening. Muffled cries of fear surrounded them, and a thick smoke obscured the sun, wrapping the marketplace in a haze of confusion. Follow me. We can't stay here. Takumi grabbed her wrist, tugging her through the spiral of chaos. They reached a clear patch of ground, where terrified families gathered and pointed toward the swirling mass of spirits, their laughter mingling with wails. I have to get the ingredients for Obakin, Nori said, scanning the scattered stalls. Are you insane? Takumi snapped, panic rising in his voice. This is a trap. We need to help them, not get yourself captured. But Nori was resolute. You don't understand. We can't just let the yokai continue unchecked. If I can make the special ramen, I might be able to calm them. Fine, but I'm coming with you, he replied, scanning their surroundings. Grab whatever you can. I'll cover you. As Nori darted to the nearby stalls, she maneuvered through toppled crates. She snatched an armful of fresh greens, heart racing, the chaos around her swirling out of focus. Here, take this, Takumi called, tossing her a packet of miso. An explosion of color painted the air as another stall erupted nearby, scattering dust and noise. The villagers fled, voices raised in panic, yet Nori pressed forward, grit anchoring her as she turned toward the last stand. A vendor was struggling, trying to salvage his wares amid the chaos. Need help? She shouted over the bedlam, reaching for a package of noodles. No, get back! They'll sense you, the vendor yelled, frantically trying to shield his goods. Nori hesitated, torn between the urge to escape and a desperate instinct that pushed her toward kindness. You have to move. We all have to work together to stop this. Before he could respond, the ground shook again, the reverberation carrying a shudder of discontent. The monstrous yokai loomed closer, their presence palpable, entwining Nori in a web of tension as the marketplace threatened to erupt into disastrous entanglement. Let's go, Takumi urged, dragging her away from the stall. As they sprinted back to the safety of Obakin's home, Nori cast a nervous glance back, the fragments of her plan merging with the spiraling chaos ahead. The ingredients gathered, but the connection she sought remained elusive, buried within the din of fear and confusion that threatened the very heart of her town. Nori dashed into the familiarity of her kitchen, the chaos of the marketplace still swirling in her mind. Takumi followed close behind, urgency painting his brows. As she threw ingredients onto the counter, adrenaline surged, her hands moving with practiced precision. Okay, we need to move. I'll start the broth, she said, urgency spurring her toward the simmering pot, adding the miso and stirring furiously. I'll talk to everyone outside, Takumi replied, scanning the room filled with scattered pots and anxious energy. They need direction, otherwise the yokai will only grow stronger. We can't let it spill over into the town. Nori nodded, urging him to go. Just keep them calm. I'll finish as fast as I can. As he slipped outside, she focused on the task at hand. The broth boiled, sending fragrant steam into the air. Her heart raced, a mixture of hope and looming anxiety. This had to work. It was their only chance to settle the yokai's rage. Chopping the vegetables, each slice echoed with her determination. Celery, carrots, and fragrant herbs tumbled into the pot with resolute finality. Just as she lifted the ladle to serve, the door burst open again. "I see you're busy, struggling," Akira's voice dripped with sarcasm as he stepped into the chaos of her kitchen, arms casually crossed. Nori clenched her jaw, turning away. "This isn't a game, Akira. Leave. Isn't it? Your precious ramen is about to get a makeover." He stepped closer, his presence invading her space. "Perhaps I could give you a hand?" "I don't need your help," she said curtly, trying to ignore the queasy feeling creeping into her stomach. Before she could react, Akira reached into her pot, tossing in an unmeasured handful of chili flakes with a devilish grin. "Just a little spice for flavor." Nori's mouth dropped open in disbelief. "What are you doing?" "Oh, come on. You don't want to put out a boring dish in a crisis like this, do you?" A wave of heat crashed over her as she tasted the mixture. "That's too much. It will burn." She lunged forward, attempting to stop him, but he deftly stepped aside, grabbing fresh scallions next, hurling them into her carefully balanced concoction without hesitation. "Stop it!" She tried to shove him out of the way, but he effortlessly sidestepped her, reveling in the chaos. "Chill out," Akira taunted, a gleam of delight in his eyes as he adjusted the flame beneath her pot, cranking it up to an aggressive boil. "Let's see what happens when you really push the limits." With a furious yell, Nori grasped for the ladle, stirring frantically to salvage her dish. Just then, the kitchen rattled as another round of distant explosions echoed from the marketplace outside, a reminder of the escalating danger. "Great, now we have to deal with extra spicy spirits." Akira laughed, looking around for further mischief. "Really? This is your idea of help?" Nori threw out, her anger boiling over as she tried to taste her creation while redirecting the flames back to a gentle simmer. "Just adding a touch of excitement. They might love the unpredictability. Spirits are unpredictable after all." He leaned against the countertop, his amusement evident, oblivious to her despair. With a swift movement, Nori spun, grabbing the next batch of ingredients. "You're sabotaging everything," she hissed through gritted teeth, heart pounding against her ribs. "I'm not letting you ruin this." The broth sputtered as Nori added a splash more water, desperate to temper the fiery concoction. Outside, she glimpsed Takumi rallying the townspeople, faces racked with fear. The chaos was encroaching, and her window was closing. Akira, unfazed, plucked a wayward garnish from the counter, tossing it casually in the air. "Simon, don't you realize the bigger picture? This isn't just about winning a contest. It's about legacy. For once, can you be serious?" Nori shouted, feeling the tide of futility swell within her. Just then, another loud crash resonated outside, shaking the building as a cloud of dust filtered through the open door. Nori's instinct kicked in. "You're making it worse." Akira feigned shock. "Me? I'm just enjoying the performance." Gritting her teeth, Nori seized control, focusing on the swirling concoction. The flames cooled just enough to balance the flavors, bringing life back into the pot. "Get out of my kitchen, Akira." He raised his hands in mock surrender, a smirk still plastered across his face, but the disturbance in the air felt palpable. With renewed energy, Nori nearly finished her dish, an urge to triumph whispering to her as she plated the final garnish. Somewhere in the back of her mind, the essence of connection lingered, waiting to be unleashed. Establishing a moment of focus amid chaos only made the din feel more intimidating. Shadows sprawled ominously beyond the kitchen door, each grotesque figure a reminder that time was waning. Nori refused to back down, but clashing desires loomed ever closer, each wave stirring trepidation as Akira danced on the edges of unflinching destruction. The air in Nori's kitchen grew thick with urgency as she and Takumi exchanged frantic glances. The distant sounds of havoc echoed like a drumbeat in their chests, reminding them of the looming crisis outside. "We need to prepare enough of this ramen to calm the yokai," Takumi said, shoving aside a stack of bowls with decisive force. If it takes one pot, we might as well make 10. They won't settle for a mere taste, or the shenanigans happening in here. Nori nodded, determination setting her jaw. But we'll need more ingredients, a lot more. She turned, scanning the pantry, which suddenly felt insufficient. I'll grab whatever I can from the market, Takumi rushed out, breathless. Just keep cooking. If Akira messes with my plan again... No, I can't risk you getting sidetracked. She grabbed his arm, the plea evident in her eyes. You need to rally the townspeople outside. We're running out of time. With a reluctant sigh, Takumi nodded. Fine, but don't let the idiot ruin this. We need unity. I'll be back as soon as I can. As he disappeared, Nori refocused on the counter, pulling out what she had left. Pans clattered as she combined ingredients to prepare an enormous batch of ramen, the familiar rhythm returning to her hands. But soon a shadow darkened the doorway. Well, looks like Nori has stepped into the big leagues, Akira strolled in, his voice laced with mock admiration. Ready for your grand performance? Not interested. Just get out, she snapped, stirring her bubbling pot, trying to ignore the unsettling flicker of his presence. With a languid grace, he wandered closer, peering at her work with exaggerated interest. You are going to need a lot more than that, darling. If you're trying to impress the yokai, why not let me take charge? What do you know about yokai? Nori hissed, slamming down the wooden ladle. You're only interested in making this about you. Actually, I know a lot, he replied, shrugging. And who better to lead them than someone they see as an equal? I mean, let's face it, you don't have the bravado. Stop trying to make this more complicated. Nori shouted, frustration boiling over as she gestured to the mess surrounding her. Akira smirked, unfazed. Complicated? No, it's all quite simple. You and I both know the points are heading in my direction. Maybe a little chaos will do some good. His voice turned almost conspiratorial. Join me, and I'll make sure you're noted alongside me in this grand spectacle. Your petty theatrics aren't welcome in the middle of a disaster, she fired back, offering him a steely glare. Disaster? It's already unfolding beautifully. Akira laughed, his eyes glinting with mischief. The yokai need someone audacious enough to treat them as allies. Nori turned back, grit forging a steel wall around her focus. I'm not here to play your game, Akira. I'm here to save my town. But just then, an explosion echoed from the streets outside, sending shards of panic spiraling back into her thoughts. Left alone in the chaos, Akira stepped closer, leaning against the counter. You really think you can do this alone? Let's not forget I'm the one here with ideas worth seeing through. Your ideas? Or your sabotaging whimsy? Nori countered, infuriated as she tossed vegetables into the pot with renewed fervor. Let's be real. They have no respect for you. I could show them what true potential is, he quipped. Ignoring him, she grabbed spices and rapidly measured them into the pot, brow furrowed in concentration. Fine. Let them run rampant and feast on the town. But when I step in and save the day, it'll be my name on everyone's lips. He paused, an unpleasant smile forming. After all, wouldn't you want to be remembered alongside me? Nori felt the rage stir within her as the echoes of yakai laughter crept into her kitchen. Outside, they were getting bolder, sensing her weakening resolve through the tumult that followed Akira's every word. No thanks to you, she snarled, spinning toward him. I'm not playing your game or letting you manipulate the situation. We'll get through this by sticking to what matters, community. Not rivalry. As if spurred by her defiance, Akira scoffed, raising his hands in mock surrender. Fine. Cook your little heart out. But just remember, Nori, this will all end with a spectacle I'll gladly take the credit for. They'll turn against you the moment I step in. Outrage flickered within her. Her hands moved faster, churning the mixture as Akira pivoted dramatically and flung open the door, stepping back into the chaos outside. Yokai, he called, voice amplified, weaving through the streets as he theatrically gestured. Come and behold the true spectacle unveiled. A silhouette darted past the threshold, a ragged spirit attuned to his influence, drawn toward his call. Nori's heart raced. No, it wasn't over. If Akira unhinged their unrest, the very spirit of their town would descend into pandemonium. She grabbed a handful of scallions, focusing inward, pushing down the chaos swirling around her. Ignoring every doubt he wielded, she had to bring the essence of friendship to life. She had to fight for her community, pouring intent into the preparations as the stir of energy flickered in the air, fueled by the growing tension outside. "Just give me a little more strength," she murmured to herself, moving amid the unfolding turmoil, unwilling to let Akira's sabotage drown out her resolve. While the storm surged at the thresholds, her fight was defined in her kitchen, a place that buzzed with potential amidst the madness. The town square throbbed with chaos. Nori stepped out of her kitchen, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The sight before her was a jarring painting of desperation. Yokai danced among terrified townspeople, their forms swirling in wild colors. Voices clashed, echoing the pandemonium. "I need everyone's attention," Nori shouted, raising her hands high as she moved through the scattered crowd. Takumi stood nearby, his expression a blend of determination and dread. "Help me," Nori urged. "We need to serve the ramen. Together. What do you need?" Takumi shouted back, already scanning the frantic scene. "Get the pot. Bring the bowls. We'll gather everyone." With renewed focus, she turned back toward the chaos. "Listen!" A booming laughter erupted from the throng, causing a chill inside her. The yokai leader had arrived. A figure emerged from the swirling mass, regal but twisted, with eyes that glinted like shards of glass. The crowd seemed to part in reverence and fear. "You think a mere bowl of ramen can quell my hunger?" The yokai leader's voice resonated, deep and foreboding. "Not just any ramen," Nori replied, searching for her voice through the turmoil. "This is infused with the essence of friendship and connection. It's not just food, it's a bridge between our worlds." The yokai leader tilted its head, an amused expression betraying its fierce exterior. "And what if it isn't enough? You may cook the finest bowl, but will the flavor fulfill my spirit?" Nori felt the temperature drop, the eyes of the townspeople looking to her with a hint of desperation. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tremors in her heart. "It's not the noodles I crave," it replied, its voice echoing darkly. "I seek something of greater substance. Create something new that speaks to my essence. Show me you understand the bond between the human and the spirit realm." Nori clenched her fists, trying to process the challenge suddenly laid before her. "I'll create something blended with both of our worlds. There can't be one without the other. If you grant me more time, I will surprise you." Akira stepped forward from the shadows, a mocking grin stitched across his face. "Concepts of creation, that's rich coming from you, Nori. Let's see how you tackle something you've never imagined." Nori shot him a scathing look, but refused to take the bait. "Leave, Akira. This is between me and the yokai." "Oh, I think we both know it's much more than that," he sneered, folding his arms defiantly. Each heartbeat pounded loud in her ears as Nori fought to gather her thoughts. What could she create? The whims of the yokai leader swirled around her, and the town's fate hung precariously. "Lend me your hands, everyone," Nori called, rallying the townspeople around her once more. "We need to bring everything together. Ingredients, flavors, ideas, gather everything." "What do we do?" Takumi asked, stepping closer, determination flickering in his eyes. "It has to represent unity." She grabbed fresh ingredients from baskets scattered among the crowd, tossing them into the air. "We'll use Earth's bounty as the base, intertwining our worlds." "How do we blend it?" Takumi urged, preparing to help her gather more. "Hurry," Nori called, guiding the swirling energy in her thoughts. "We need flavors each spirit can relate to. Balance is essential." As the townspeople worked, she orchestrated a chaotic harmony, melding flavors of nourishment with her fervent intent. Bright vegetables, savory seasonings, everything sparked with life when blended together. Akira scoffed from the sidelines, watching with an air of cynicism. "Humans may be excellent cooks, but establishing something new." He laughed derisively. "Futile!" Suddenly, the yokai leader laughed, a low rumbling sound. "Do you hear that, Nori? Your challenge will be met not just with sustenance, but creativity that resonates." "The tides shift. I am waiting." Determined to surprise the leader, Nori began culinary alchemy, folding in unconventional ingredients. Sweetness to contrast bitterness, textures to create interest, each with intention. Her hands moved deftly as she concocted a symphony of flavors, weaving them together, channeling a connection that pulsed with energy. She took a deep breath, the pot looming before her like a pulse of forgiveness. Heaving the steaming mixture into bowls, she arranged them meticulously, each one exuding an aura of hope. "Here," she proclaimed, serving the first bowl to the yokai leader. "Your creation speaks," said the leader, peering intently at the offering. "But will it satisfy my spirit?" "Only you can decide that," Nori replied, her own heart in her throat. The yokai leader accepted the bowl with a slow, measured grace, examining the concoction like an artist assessing a masterpiece. Whispered murmurs rippled through the gathered crowd, eyes fixed in anticipation. As the leader took an initial bite, the air hung heavy with silence. The crowd held its collective breath, waiting to learn if their union of flavors would resonate or dissolve in the ether of despair. With each passing moment, Nori sensed the twinges of tension, Akira shifting, the yokai evaluating, the townsfolk on edge. The climate was electric, a collision course of sentiment that could tip either way. "Nori!" Takumi called urgently from the sidelines, raw determination fueling his every word. "You have to show them more, share that spark of imagination." "Yes," she exclaimed, seeing the pathway ahead. "Together we can challenge the realms." Nori shouted, inspiring those around her. "A creative rescue born from a crisis. Blend our worlds and bring forth something that sings neither of you nor us, but of both." The yokai leader paused, its gaze piercing yet intrigued, as Nori stirred her thoughts together with the fate of everyone present. The ingredients transformed into a vision far greater than the sum of its parts. It was a celebration of connection, a reflection of all their hopes. With a swift flourish, she set her sights on the next creation, navigating the winds of fate as they combated the impending storm.